Mel Kiper released his recent big board, and Tua Tagovailoa has moved up to the 3rd spot. He is behind just Chase Young and Joe Burrow. Let me show you Mel's top 10. It includes 6 players from the SEC, while Ohio State's 2 top 5 guys make up the only representation of the Big Ten. Those are the names. A lot of them are the ones you would be expecting. You can see Mel's entire big board exclusively on ESPN Plus, including his top 10 at every position. I want to come to Schefter on this in a second, but Laura, what are we hearing specifically about Tua's injury? Because this is something you've been covering since the moment it happened.
Well, look, Tua's going to have to prove it to these teams. We'll have questions about his health, but the doctors who performed the surgery feel incredibly confident he will make a full recovery. And I think the key here is the surgical repair of the fracture and proper rehab have allowed healing of the joint capsule and the soft tissue around the joint. That actually makes his chances of having this injury again the same as someone who never had it. So it's not something that they believe will recur. He also, when you see that injury, had 2 guys on his back, fell directly onto his right knee, which that caused the hip to dislocate out the back. That's something that is so rare. It's something that was a fluky type injury that they don't believe would happen again. It's not like, hey, he's got a hip injury that's going to keep recurring. The doctors will assure these NFL teams of that. Also, I'm hearing the rehab is going very well and is on time.
Here's the issue with that. I 100%. The problem is he has a history of injury, right? So that will factor into it. People will look at it, and even if the doctors say to them everything you just said, won't there be some question in the minds of someone who has to basically put their job on the line to take this guy?
Well, so let me be clear. You're saying that the doctors believe that the recurrence of an injury, the chance of that, are not high?
Not high at all because of the actual injury that it is, the hip dislocating out the back that was fluky and had happened that way, and the way that they've repaired it.
And that is what teams need to hear and need to be sold on. Because I can tell you, in talking to teams, they are worried about the chance that there is a recurrence of the hip injury, which could impact his draft stock. And so if it is what you're saying, then I think Tua goes right in that range that Mel Kiper's got him in at number 3. But if they have questions and concerns, that's where the interesting part of where Tua goes in the draft is going to be.
Let's give some fans some more insight. There is not some sort of glorified universal doctor that exists. When you go to the combine, each and every doctor tugs on you and examines each individual body part. So to Schefter's point, it doesn't matter what the figurative doctors say. What matters is, hey, what does this doctor say or that doctor say? And furthermore, Greeny, the last thing, when you look at the big board and the projections, have them going to the Dolphins. Well, the Dolphins right now lead the league in sacks given up. So if you are a team that's going to draft him, make sure that you have the protocol that can protect him as well.
You've got to have him see draft by a team that will allow him to sit for a year at least. I believe that's key in all of this.
I'm right with, to me, the team that could draft him and give him time, that has a bridge quarterback that takes the pressure off him playing right away, is an ideal scenario.
Well, I don't want to make you speculate, but I'm asking you to anyway. Like, what would be an example of a team? Like, if you look at the teams that are drafting up top, Cincinnati is not that. Well, I guess in theory they could be. They could bring Andy Dalton back for a year, but we all think they're going to take Joe Burrow at number 1. Who are the other teams out there that are in that kind of situation?
Well, if we look at the top 10 teams, there are a group of teams that need quarterbacks in there. A team like the Chargers, Phillip Rivers maybe signs a 1-year deal to come back, maybe doesn't. They have Tyrod Taylor there, who they like a lot anyway, with 1 year left in his contract. That might be an interesting situation.
Yeah, I co-sign with Schefter. Greeny, when you look at it, you want to sit Tua, but in this day and age, it's a win-now league. I understand Rodgers sat. It's about almost 2020. That was a long time ago. I hope that a team has that kind of patience. Not convinced that they do.
That to me would be a fascinating thing, is if a team packages picks. I'm looking at the Raiders. We just talked about them over there, who have 2 first-round picks. They have Chicago's. Right now, I think the picks are tracking to being 11 and 16. Is that enough to move up? Probably not to number 3 or 4.
Right.
But it could be enough to move up a little. And then there's another quarterback in this mix, Justin Herbert, who is exactly the kind of player that these evaluators are going to talk themselves into loving, no matter what you think of him.
I didn't know if this was a point in the show for it. I know we're talking about Mitch later and how his whole thing got affected in his draft stock. Man, Justin Herbert is the kind of guy who everybody is rivaling to make a top 5 pick, a top 10 pick, and I just don't see it.
And if Justin Herbert had come out last year, I think he might have got number 1.
Yeah, he probably would have. He looks the part for sure. We're so glad you're watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports and analysis, download the ESPN app. And for live streaming sports and premium content, make sure you subscribe to ESPN Plus. We'll see you there.